YouTubers, this is Jonesy with Custom Kids Cars, and today we're going to be doing a unboxing and product review of this Jeep from Big Toys Green Country. We had a customer send this to us, and we are going to do a 2-for-1. We actually converted this one to hand controls for a little paralyzed 4-year-old. So some things are altered on this, but nevertheless we're going to do an unbiased review and tell you guys what we think of it, the options, features, and potential for upgrades, because that's what we do. Alright, let's get started. Okay, so when you guys order this, I think she paid $3.59 or something like that according to the link that she sent me, but it was including free shipping. So there is assembly involved. So this is the box you get, and the instructions are pretty straightforward. Now what you need to do is follow the steps because they are in a specific order. Pretty obvious here. It's telling you to take all the parts out and make sure you got everything. There are all your parts. And we do have extra parts, so don't be alarmed. There's a couple of extra washers, a cotter key, cotter pin I should say, and a couple extra screws. So they're saying step 1 here. And we did have the monkeys put this together, and it's pretty straightforward other than a couple issues we have, and I'm going to talk about that more in the assembly section. But on the steering here, when we go to put the washer on, there's some burrs on it. It's just basically quality control. You know, it's Chinese made. It happens. And then the other issue, when we went to put on one of the front wheels, the bushing that they actually sent with it was for a smaller sized axle. And what we had to do is we took a piece of PEX 1/2-inch tubing, cut it to the same width as the other side, and it was the perfect diameter for the axle. So we had a quick fix. We have had other Big Toys Green Country products, the drift trike and the charger went kaput after a couple weeks. It was making this weird noise anyways. They called them up, they had no problem sending it. So there would be a delay, but I'm sure that their customer service would probably take care of you guys. So you put the rear axle on. So we'll probably show a lot of this stuff. I haven't went through and edited yet, but it actually has a kind of a suspension, but you got to put the rear axle on, the front wheels, and one thing that I will talk about is I really like how the wheels go on. They're not the stupid push nuts. These are actually all cotter pins, so easy to take off and put on the wheels. You can see the steps, rear wheels, steering wheel. This one's unique. I've never installed a tail hook. It's this metal bracket on the back, and I have no idea what it is for. I'm thinking maybe for storage. I really have no idea. These all pop right on windshield mirrors and the fog light. Last is a roll cage and the seat. And then it goes through instructions. Now, big part of having one of these ride-ons is knowing how to use it and charging the battery. Of course, it'll tell you to, well, this is for the remote control because it is RC controlled. And right here's the controls. And you might want to save this box or at least this front panel so that you know what these are, because looking at that, well, what the heck's P? They call it emergency brake. I'm going to call it P for parking, speed control, and we'll get into the operation of that in the next segment. So you got to put batteries in it, and you do have to link it to the receiver of the vehicle. And it was pretty straightforward. It did take us 2 tries, but it takes 2 AAA batteries in this remote here. And here it tells you to match the frequency of the car and remote control. And then it goes into teaching you how to do the controls. And there is a learning curve to that. Teaches you a little bit about what the RC does. And here's how to start it. We'll go through all that stuff. It's got an on and off rocker switch for the lights. And charging. It says to charge 12 hours, no more than 20. here is the stock charger. It's called a wall wart. Basically, this thing, when you plug it into the wall, it puts out 1 amp of power, and it doesn't ever stop. So when your battery's charged, it doesn't know that, and it keeps charging. When we plugged it into our smart charger, it was at 90%, so it took literally like 15 minutes, and it was green. It was fully charged. So I hate these things. I never use them. I always give my customers some insight that if you could use like a smart charger, like an automotive trickle charger that has a sensor that shuts off current, the battery's going to last so much longer, because I'm guilty of it. If I was using this, I would plug it in and I'd forget about it for a couple days and come back and the battery's warm, swelled up. So that's a good upgrade, little tip. And that's it for the instructions. Everything was in English. I love it. Pretty straightforward. Me and the monkeys put it together. They did most of it, and then I finished up with just the cosmetic stuff. So 1 amp charger, talked about that. Comes with an MP3 cord in the box, and this is the stock lap belt. It does have just a pretty basic belt system in there. We upgraded it to a 5-point harness. And let's get into the guts of it now. Alright, so it comes with a 7 amp hour battery. This is a 12 amp hour battery. This is what's standard in like a Peg Perigo or Kid Trax. A lot of the Power Wheels are different. They're 9 amp hour. It's a unique gray battery. I'm sure if you guys have Power Wheels, you've seen those. So I think that concludes the unboxing kind of section. So let's move on to the features and operation. Okay, so here's the fully assembled Jeep. I would say plan for about an hour to put it together for you guys in case you did something wrong and had to do it backwards, but you could probably do it, you know, in 15 minutes. But let's do a walk around. First thing I want to talk about is the wheels. They're pretty cool, aggressive, tall wheels, so it's going to have good rolling over obstacles. On the back, it has a rubber traction band that is going to be nice because it's going to give you added traction. It's going to keep that nasty plastic on concrete sound down. And on the front, it's just molded into it. It's the hard plastic, so it's not going to give you any added traction or quietness. That'll eventually wear out. It's got working doors here, and how it works is it's got a really strong magnet in here and a metal plate, and when it gets close, it's pretty cool. It's easy for the kids. It's got movable mirrors with the fake legs. Excuse me. This is pretty cool. So on the back here, it's actually got this handle that pulls out. That is super handy because when this is dead or you got to put it away, you can actually pick it up and do the kind of the wheelbarrow thing, and then it folds up out of the way. I've never seen that on a unit, and I thought that was pretty sharp. Here's this little rear hook thing. It's got 2 short screws. I have no idea what that's for. Maybe you can hook a rope behind here and do some sidewalk surfing on your skateboard. I don't know. I've never seen that before. So the cockpit here. So this is how this operates. It's literally a push button. Start. Pretty cool sound effects, backlit gauges, and it's got a working radio here. Let's see if I can even figure this out. So you push play. And it's got separate modes. This is songs that are built into the memory, but then you can also use FM, which you'd have to tune it. Okay, so on the steering wheel, it's got a couple sound effects. Oh! That scrolls through the different songs. And on this side, it's got the horn. So actually, what it does is, if you got the radio on, you push the horn, that cuts off the power. Good to know. Okay. So for Powerup, it always starts it in neutral. You can see the backlit end there. So when the kids get in here, push start it, it won't go. normally, obviously you push the gas pedal, but we've converted this one. So you've got to kind of overlook this button right here. This is the new foot control conversion for the handicap boy. So it's actually got a little paddle lever here that you kind of have to hold up for a little bit, and it'll go into low, which is 2.5 miles an hour, and then you go up again and it'll go to high, which is 5 miles an hour. And then normally when you push the gas down at the pedal, it's got a soft start feature, and I'm going to do a driving review of this in this video too. But that goes forward, and then you hold it down and it'll instantly go to reverse for you in that soft start. And it does have electro braking, so really sweet setup. So that's how you operate it. Normally there is the lap belt that went on there, but we've upgraded this to a 5-point harness for safety. And let's get a little back look, because now that I've got the lights on, it's actually got halos. It's got a center headlight, and then it's got some running lights. These have provisions, they're lenses, so you could customize it. This is the stuff that I look at, and I think it's really cool. So you could potentially put lights in here, lights in the bumper, lights in the fog lights, and then out back, it's got brake lights and reverse lights are lit up. So you could technically delete those and put in a light so that when he puts it in reverse, or she puts it in reverse, those come on with a beeper. We've done that before. And then the roll bar lights, to be honest, I wouldn't go through the trouble of installing those unless you were converting this to, or wanted just this for RC, because all that's going to do is light up the kids' back of their head. Hey, unless you want to do a lights check or something like that, but those roll bar lights are pointless when that's just going to be right at his back. Pretty cool scale realism. It's got fake windshield wipers. They're molded in so they don't open up. So we'll pop the bonnet here. Some latches. The quality of this is pretty good. When we got it out of the box, a couple of the lights were out of place because they just hot glue them in, and we just had to put them back in there and hot glue it. So as far as what we do is we modify things, so we're always looking at how this thing operates and what we can do to make it better. So here's that 7-amp-hour battery. It's got a thermal overload here, so if you ever blow a motor or overamp it, this pops and you just have to push it in like a house kind of circuit breaker. It protects the wiring. So this is really cool that it's got, I'm going to back up here and grab this. Okay, so stock, it comes with a 7-amp-hour battery. If you guys wanted longer runtime, you could actually put one of these 12-amp hours over here. It's molded into it. It's for it. So you could put these into parallel, and the 12 and 7, you'd have 19 amp hours of battery capacity. I thought that was pretty slick. So, as far as, well, everybody wants to make these faster. Don't recommend this because power comes out of the battery and into this circuit board. This is the brain of the ride-on, and those are rated for a certain voltage. If you went up to 18 volts or 24 volts, more than likely you're going to smoke that. That means you're going to lose all your sound effects, your lights, because they're probably only 5-volt LEDs. You're going to smoke all your RC control stuff. So without doing the complete gut and variable speed ESC, I wouldn't even mess with trying to make this faster as it is. It's going to take quite a bit of work, but it can be done, and we'd love to do it. So these are the wires that actually go down to the gas pedal, and we're probably going to do another video just talking about the conversion, because it's great for small kids that can't reach the pedal down there, having a thumb to push it. So we just pull those off the gas pedal, and then we just wired in these male connectors from our momentary button. So it comes with one speaker, and it's got provisions for 2, so you could really upgrade that. You know, put an amplifier on the sound box and put another speaker. Now, so that's pretty much the electronics. And the RC, if anybody's curious how the steering works, it's actually got a gearbox on the steering shaft. It's this mini little guy, and the way that works is it's just got a DC motor there and it goes left and right. So let me back up again. Okay, so here's the remote. How to activate that, you just press any button and it turns on the remote. It doesn't have an off button, it just has a battery safe feature. So in this middle here, well, it just already shut off from not using it. So it has 3 speed settings. That's low, medium, high. And here's reverse. Now steering is actually over here. Now you can see that it does not have an auto center or self center like what we install. We've done several RC conversions and we use linear actuators with a linear actuator control board or LAC board. And when you let off, it automatically self-centers so that it goes straight, just like a high-end RC car, not one of those cheapy Toys R Us things. But so the RC is okay, but the parent is going to have to fudge with this to get it back straight. I mean, it's pretty fast. It's highly sensitive, but you're going to go wig-wag back and forth. I can already tell. And I haven't driven this outside. It's winter here, but we're going to do some driving here. But yeah, I'm not going to be able to hold the camera and drive too much in here. But so you can see how it starts off slow. That's that soft start feature. Okay, I'll try to get this lined up straight so I don't crash into customers' rides here. But see how it's slow? Now reverse is going to be low. I do have it in high speed, so when I hammer down on forward, it's slow, slowly building up, and when you just let off, it stops. So another request that the customer had, if you guys are wondering, this P right here is an override. So if your kid's in a dangerous spot or you want them to stop so you can catch up because you're out of breath, you just hold this down and it literally puts it into lockdown until you press it again. And now it's back to kid controller manual. So hope you guys, I answered all the questions for you guys that you have. If you're a consumer looking for a Jeep, this is a single seater. I guess some of the negatives would be it is a single seater. It's kind of smaller. And I'm going to get into the nuts and bolts and talk about the parts in the next section. So hold on. Alright, so let's talk about the Powerplant. So say you guys need to take this apart if you broke a gearbox, which that's a great time to bring up that you can't just go online and order these parts. You actually have to get them right through Big Country or Big Toys Green Country, and they won't just sell you parts unless you bought it from them. So I kind of have concerns that if you buy this used and it's broken and you're trying to get parts, they might give you a hassle. I have no idea. But so they're friction fit hubcaps, and what we've done is we took one of these paint tools and we actually hooked it underneath and popped it out. And this is where it's easy. It's just a cotter pin here. You just straighten that out and the wheel pulls right out. And here, I wanted to keep gearbox in there. Okay. So with the wheel, the way that the driver is, it's very similar to a Kid Trax brand. This is from a Dodge Ram made by Kid Trax. And you can see that here's the gearbox. I've already unplugged it. Now, here's a negative. See how small the wiring is? Compare that next to a Power Wheels brand motor wire. So that's going to dictate how many amps can go through that before that wire gets hot or even melts. So looking at it, there are no RPM specs on here. I don't know if that's 9,000 RPMs, which if it is, and I can't be held liable for this, but you may potentially be able to upgrade just the motors to get more speed. But there are concerns that that motor speed controller can't handle that, and it might fry because the motors are saying, hey, I'm hungry for juice, I want to pull more amps. So I can't be responsible for that, but it'd be worth a try. And if you smoke it, then get yourself an ESC kit from West Coast or East Coast Powerups. But it does have a suspension. It's a joke. It's just a spring, but it does have a swing arm and some springs in there. So it's going to be a little bit boingy, but hey, it's better than rigid. It'll take the edge off. And then the front, the same thing. It's just got a really noisy spring, and I don't know if the kids are even going to be able to compress that. But it just rubs everywhere. Actually, I'll get an underside view if I don't tip it over because it's got a wheel off. But it's right there. So you got the spindle, and it's literally just a spring. And another thing that I already did for them that I didn't talk about is this thing had horrible turning radius. And hopefully you guys are watching this whole video, because see those little tabs right there? Normally that's bent up. And what I did is I just took some pliers and I straightened this right here down so that it could go past it. See that? That gave it a tremendous amount of better turning radius. Oh, jack stand didn't really work too good. Okay, so that's something that I actually forgot that I should talk about is horrible steering. I just did. Alright, so just bend those up, guys. No major modifications. It takes 10 seconds. So, I was playing with this. Since this is the stock gearbox, it actually mounts to other brands. So you could change wheels, or you could get a heavier duty Kid Tracks gearbox and motor setup. But I don't know that it's going to fit inside the way that this works. But hey, that really isn't an issue for us, because that's what we do, is we modify stuff. But I know a lot of you guys are looking at this review for just stock, and that's fine. The way that it is, it'll work. But the way that we operate is stock is boring. So I think that's the back end. I'm going to put this all back together. It's pretty simple. And going to do a driving section for you guys. So we'll take this out in the snow and wrap up the video. Our test driver here, Teddy. He's gonna start this thing up and take it for a spin and see how he likes it.